So, Rihanna, I'm going to ask you a very simple question. What was the highlight of your week this week?
Thank you, Adil. It's been a fascinating week. It kicked off with a really interesting conversation with Salam Media, who had picked up on a Daily Maverick article about the Oriental Plaza. And so, being in that conversation about the Oriental Plaza and Fordsburg, I think was really an opportunity to think back of apartheid era economics, but also the resilience of a community. Immediately after that interview, I was off for the Alan and Joe Gray Philanthropy Foundation, South Africa, as part of Mutse Collective Impact, which Mutse means a village, and that almost this notion of you require a village for entrepreneurship to succeed. And that is everything from, is an entrepreneurship culture valued in a locality? Is the infrastructure supportive? Is there access to finance? What is the state of research and development? And the foundation have been, through the localization of the work of Professor Eric Stung, done specifically by Prof. Zach Kambule from UJ, as well as Prof. Pumlani from the University of Stellenbosch Business School, have issued a State of South African Entrepreneurship Ecosystem report and are now going to specific localities to look at what is the state of entrepreneurship in that region. What was really exciting about the work that was done in Mpumalanga was to see the Nkangala Business Chamber strongly present, willing to engage the research, and willing to look specifically at what this means for their locality and how they position themselves. My biggest highlight of the session was Dr. Ntabiseng Moleko. Dr. Ntabiseng plays a range of roles and has played a range of roles, including at the National Empowerment Fund, on the Presidential Advisory Council for Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment. But I think her very concise message on the need for a common vision for how we turn the South African economy from a consumptionist economy into a productive economy, how we address growing inequality. And I think I was just left with the sense of South Africa has no shortage of talented young academics and individuals of hope, of people who really want to make a difference. And I think as we are in such a difficult period in our country, we're realizing that many of our issues are actually economic. And that moved beautifully into a wonderful event that coincided with the day of Ashura in the Islamic calendar, where we were blessed through the network of Mishka Teladia to have a member of the Suhba Sisterhood community, Aisha Marzuki. Aisha has for 3 years been working on the Jaria field guide, and just to have her at Barefoot Space, to listen to the international experiences of people who are working on economic models that are very different to an extractivist, capitalist system, and that there is hope for another way of being and doing and growing economy. I think from Dr. Ntabiseng in Woodbank, the one thing that came through very clearly was there's power in our buying choices. When we buy a product, we can select whether the money we're spending is ending up with some sort of multinational, large corporation, or whether we're spending money to build economy locally, create a circular economy. And so all in all of the sessions, and of course the session with Aisha on the launch of the Jaria field guide, the notion of it's not only money. We have skills, we have space, we have time. there are a range of resources that each of us have sufficient of, and we have access. And how do we put that access into circulation? I really think that it's an exciting approach. The guests who were here, all very well accomplished in their own right, and the quality of conversation that happened was really exciting and was really part of the vision for Barefoot Space.
So, based on your week, something stood out for me, and it's that the Barefoot Facilitator has already taken an approach to contributing to a circular economy. Can you talk about some of the work that the Barefoot Facilitator has done with regards to sharing of wealth within the community?
So, Adil, I think the big issue is I facilitate, and I'm very blessed and feel very grateful for the opportunity to facilitate on a wide variety of topics and to learn about things that I actually know very little about. My historical orientation has always been more towards the social, but I think my time in local government, my time as a community activist, and then becoming an entrepreneur or a business owner has really opened my eyes to the fact that many of the issues we face in society actually have their root in an imbalanced economic system. And so for me, it's not enough to just facilitate and hear about innovation or to hear about new economic models. It is about testing them and piloting them and trying them. So Barefoot Space in itself is an experiment in the possibility of reversing financial flows in Johannesburg, because at the moment money from these neighborhoods tends to flow to the northern suburbs. Is it possible to reverse that flow, and then can we enable shared prosperity through that reversal? So that's a pilot. We've done some other work over the years as the Barefoot Facilitator, with our Play in the Park project, with our Transforming Slovo. And of course, not everything has succeeded. I think it's important to say that many of these have been deep learning experiences. But I think what has been exciting is to just watch the Jaria principles in action, even when I didn't have a term for it. And I think what's lovely about the work that Aisha has done is that it's putting a framework and a language to a new model. Rather than just criticizing the existing, it's beginning to provide a platform for how to build the new. And some of what we had tried and experimented with was a solar-powered digital skills hub in the local informal settlement up the road from where we live, the Play in the Park project that was really initiated because of a kind donation of toys from a friend whose son had outgrown them. And more people have actually come forward, not only to give toys, but to give time, to give skills, to come and talk to the young children, to come and play with them, to entertain them. And so I think this notion of wealth is beyond what you have in your bank account. That true community wealth is how we share, is how we care, is the kindness we give to each other. And in a state where inequality, poverty, unemployment are as strong as they are, we need to ask the question, do you only have value as a human being when you have a job? And I think that whole framing in itself is quite problematic.
So I think young people today have a thing where they graduate and they have to go out and get a job. What are the alternatives to getting a job in today's economy?
So I think, again, Dr. Ntabi Singh's input at the Mutse Collective Impact described an economy that is pretty stagnant. And she gave, very detailed stats about that. And an economy that is simply not able to absorb the number of people who need opportunity. And so this issue of entrepreneurship, this issue of innovation and problem solving. What are the problems in your locality? Are people willing to pay to solve for those problems? But I want to go back, Adil, to this conversation about the extent to which people's lives are being measured by their employment status. If you don't have a formal job in a formal economy with a salary, does that mean that you have no contribution to make? We were chatting on Friday when the Jaria Field Guide was launched about the importance of the care economy. The work of care in our society is predominantly done by women, whether that's women caring for young children, whether that's women caring for elderly parents, whether that's women cooking a meal for a family. And so often the economic value of that care is not even understood. It's not even counted in something like GDP. And so my advice to young people is you don't have to accept the models that your education system told you about. You don't also have to accept everything that so-called elders in your community said. You can redefine what is value, what is wealth, and what is your life purpose.
Thank you, Rihanna. I think that was incredibly insightful, and I think we will end the discussion here for this week. We thank you for your time, and we hope to continue the series going forward. Thank you.